Sean Dolan. I work for a company called Pushfire in Katy, Texas, just west of Houston. Here's Tim Meyer from Trueffect. We're going to be talking about remarketing today. Has anybody here done remarketing or familiar with it? Real life, done some? Okay. Anybody completely unfamiliar with remarketing in terms of doing it for your side of your clients? All right, so I'm going to get started by kind of going over sort of big picture what remarketing is, but quickly digging deep into some actionable strategies and methods that you can take home and actually use. A little bit about myself. I got started in the internet marketing business for my own mobile DJ site back in the day. I went into, had a lot of success with that through PPC, booking myself out for year at a time. Decided not to pursue the business of DJing and hiring DJs after a few got arrested on bench warrants and it became a headache. I got into internet marketing and applying those skills I'd learned to other businesses, some local dentists, things like that. So the first kind of example of my work that we did with my father, who was my business partner at the time, was called Pimp This Bum. We went out to the streets of I-10 and Highway 6 and we found a homeless man who was willing to let us build a website for him and basically optimize his business. There's a lot of theory behind it all, but basically what it boiled down to is a website you could log into and send him money instead of trying to give him money physically. It was just easier for that transaction to take place. That got on the news, eventually ended up with Fox and Friends, Der Spiegel, Germany. Larry King asked for an interview, but Tim had already started rehab, so we turned him down. I coach football. I've got 3 children, a beautiful wife, and Pushfire, our company, does Tough Mudders. So if anyone's interested in joining us May 5th in Central Texas, please, I'll have a link at the end. So when you get started with the remarketing process, first thing you want to do is kind of look at all your metrics on your site and your analytics and find out what behaviors you're trying to go after and what behaviors you're trying to avoid. It's really the first step because the ability of remarketing, it allows you to segment these behaviors out. And before you jump in and get started, you really want to be clear on what those goals are. So create the list of positives, the list of negatives, and then you're going to create these marketing lists to capture those behaviors. And then you target the ones you want, you exclude the ones you don't. Here's a quick case study of search network through AdWords with a $58 cost per action. Is the same client, same products. With remarketing, we got it down to a $22 cost per action. So that's a 60% drop in cost per action. So the point of that is remarketing is going to convert better for you. So it's kind of silly not to take advantage of it. I'm going to go through a few kind of top-level ways of organizing your lists that I feel like will apply most to you guys. So the scenario is shopping cart abandonment. So they put something in the cart but didn't complete a sale. You're going to have to create a custom combination, and you're basically saying positive for shopping cart cookie, and you're saying negative for thank you page. So they did go to the shopping cart, but they didn't go to the thank you page. So you're going to remarket to those people. And it's an ongoing 30-day cycle of anyone that comes to your website for 30 days will see these ads. Until, of course, they do land on the thank you page, which takes them off the list. So that's how that works. Pretty simple. It's one of the more common uses of remarketing. Then we have product abandonment. What you're doing here is you're just attaching a specific product to that bounce, to that abandonment. And you're requiring that both Blue Shoe page and shopping cart. There's other dynamic ways you can do this as well. This is just the simplest way to explain it. Both have to be true, and if those are true, show them, put them on this list, and then obviously negative the thank you page. So it's just taking a step further of going, not only did they abandon, but for a specific product. And you can break that out into separate products so that you can show them ads for those particular products until they convert. Very famously, Zappos does this a lot. If you look at a blue shoe, you're going to see a blue shoe for a few weeks. Has anybody seen that with Zappos in particular? Yeah. They do a really great job. So taking it a step further, anniversaries and seasonality. What all can we do with these cookies? What can we do on a seasonal basis? So the scenario is they ordered an anniversary gift for their spouse. And again, it's a custom combination. You've set the cookie to require. They went to the anniversary gifts category, let's say, or page, and they also went to the shopping cart, those both being true. And then you negative on the thank you, and you positive on the thank you. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. There's a 10-day gap between the 370 and 360. So in 360 days, one of these cookies are going to drop off and not be there to then be negative to make this a true statement. So what it's saying is a year from the time of the purchase, they're going to get ads to remind them that their anniversary is coming up. So as long as you can identify the purchase as something for an anniversary or something seasonal, you're able to set this remarketing list to target them in approaching the next year. 30-day trials. Prospect signs up for a 30-day trial. You want to remind them the trial is about to expire. A lot of software companies want to give away 30-day trials to get people really bought into their product and try it out. This allows you to remarket to them and remind them that their 30 days is running out. I know personally, I've tried a lot of different software that when it came down to it, I was really excited one day, and then I just get busy and I don't get back to it, and a month just goes by. So this just kind of nudges them, a quick reminder like, hey, come back, see us, hopefully to get them to sign up for that product. Targeting offline prospects. So putting this in a trade show setting, the trade show booth passed out contest codes, directing them to visit your Enter to Win page to enter to win a prize. What this is doing is basically taking offline people that you meet in person and finding a way to group them into a remarketing list to advertise to later. You just hand out a card, do a contest. It's a lot of the same stuff that's already being done, except for the website they go to enter into that contest puts them on a remarketing list. So now you have a nice group that you label, Affiliate Summit West 2015 trade show prospects. And you have that list that you can then advertise to a few days after the show or maybe a week after the show. Once kind of the cloud of all the different brands that people see during the conference kind of fades away, there you are prominently displayed, following them around in ads. Targeting social media users. This is a bit of a trick that I discovered, someone else had discovered that I'd found, that they're actually pinging the Facebook and Twitter servers to see if the user is logged in. And whether it says yes or no, it separates whether they have an account from whether they don't have an account. So you can segment people into remarketing lists based on where they're socially active. So I found that interesting, and there'll be a link at the end. You guys can explore more on that. While you're targeting good behavior, you want to exclude bad behavior. Same thing works. So the same reasons you want people to be in a remarketing list and target them, people that behaviors that you don't want. For instance, if someone's looking at your jobs page, and you're not looking to hire people, then you can negative that. So you can have a positive remarketing list for all these different attributes, but then say, exclude anybody that's looked at our jobs page. So you don't want to pay for people to see your service when they're just looking for a job. Piggyback conversion codes. So any conversions that you have set up in analytics, you can import right into AdWords. So this opens up a whole lot of really interesting opportunities as far as remarketing goes. Pricing, packaging, based on how much they spend in your shop, how many products, how many transactions they make in a week, all these different things you can use and lump them into remarketing groups. If they subscribe to your RSS feed, level of engagement, are they sharing things socially? Are they clicking on the share button? You can fire JavaScript off there and drop a cookie to put them in a group. Surveys, you can just ask them, ask them questions about themselves, and based on the answers they give you, lump them into different remarketing lists. Whether they watch videos, the time they spend on the site or on the page, so you can have the JavaScript fire after 30 seconds. We're an agency, so if someone's on our PPC management page, for more than 30 seconds, we can fire a code that then puts them in a remarketing list that we can then later advertise our PPC services based on someone who's interested and not just anyone who landed on the page. Again, page views, funnels, any funnels that you've set up that you want to put into a group, a remarketing list, referral sources, where do they come from? Site search, things they searched on your site, transaction amounts, download product manual, just a level of engagement there. Seasonal items, email links. And the email links, if you email them something with a bunch of links, based on what they click, sort of segments them into different interest categories. And those can also be created into remarketing lists. Facebook remarketing. So Facebook with remarketing is like creepy on top of creepy because there's so much data that we have on people. Did anybody see the register to vote proclamation in Facebook? Did anybody see that? Where it was like, tell everyone you voted. You guys saw that? So I found that pretty interesting because now, what do you think they're going to do with that, right? Like you could sell a remarketing list of people who say they voted, right? That's your voting audience. So why do you want to advertise to people that aren't voting, for political means? So other ways Facebook can be used in the remarketing groups is age, sex, sexual orientation, education, work, net worth, parents, moms, conservative, liberal, voted, whether they voted or not, whether they're page admins, and I said blood type, IQ, I'm sure that's all coming. But right now we just have so many insane ways to categorize these people. Real-world applications. So stepping back and trying to sort of apply these to real-world businesses. As part of a sponsorship, Affiliate Summit could drop the sponsor's remarketing code on the agenda page to kind of give all of these sponsors these remarketing lists. So you could have all these different remarketing codes from all the different sponsors firing off on that agenda page and collecting these lists into the respective sponsors. Create lists from review articles to promote that affiliate product for those on page greater than 5 minutes. So my wife's a career affiliate, and to be able to remarket someone on a page that maybe reviews a product, pick a product that they review, you could later advertise to those people to click through to purchase that product. Sports clips reminds guys they need a haircut. As long as there's a way to drop that cookie, maybe they're signing up to make the reservation for their haircut, whatever it is, you can cycle that and have them show every 3 weeks to 4 weeks from the time they last visited that page. If you're running a bar and you collect a list of your Wednesday night karaoke patrons, right, same thing, pass a card out, register to win, some sort of gimmick to get them to go to the website. Once they get there, that's your Wednesday crowd. That's pretty useful, right? Tuesday night, you blast out ads to your Wednesday crowd, or Wednesday afternoon. Or if you're having a special karaoke night on Saturday, that's unique, you might want to hit up your Wednesday crowd because that's your karaoke crowd, that sort of thing. Venue builds remarketing lists from websites of all artists who perform. So if a venue has a lot of different artists coming through, and they could get the audience from each one of those events to get on a remarketing list, they now have a list of people that like that type of music. So if you're going to have a new artist come into that venue that doesn't have much exposure and you're trying to promote them, you could say, well, he sounds a lot like, let's say, Garth Brooks. So we can hit up the Garth Brooks remarketing list, the people that came that we got on the remarketing list for that type of music. Car wash collects lists. So let's say a car wash and a dealership get together and make a deal where, if they buy a new car, they get a free car wash, and they have to go to this website to register for the free car wash. Once they do, they're put on this list. And then all you have to do, if you're the car wash guy, is turn those ads on every time it rains in your local city, right? So you have the control of when those ads go on and off, as well as who you're targeting. RLSA. So remarketing list for search ads is pretty exciting. It's fairly new, and it takes a while to kind of get your head around, but hopefully these examples will make it clear. If you take, let's do HeinzField.com. So Heinz Field is where the Pittsburgh Steelers play, but it's also a wedding venue. Not a lot of people know that. So in their events department, they're trying to advertise themselves as a wedding venue. And if you're going to advertise yourself in Pittsburgh as a wedding venue, you're up against just a huge market of people that maybe fans of the team, maybe not, can't afford it, maybe they do, but having your wedding at Heinz Field is kind of such a unique thing for a fan that it may not make sense to advertise to everybody and be up against all these wedding venues that cater to all types of weddings. But what you can do is you can put a remarketing JavaScript on, let's say, Steelers.com and collect everyone for a full year, and put them in a remarketing list. And then out of that remarketing list that you have, set up RLSAs to say if they search wedding venue and they're in this remarketing list, then show them the ad. So now you're only advertising to people that have showed some level of interest in Steelers.com and are now looking for a wedding venue. It's a perfect match. You're going to get a much higher CPA, a much lower CPA, and a lot more conversions out of that. Whereas otherwise, you wouldn't even be able to play in that space, right? Like we're talking about, RLSA opens up the opportunity to play in keyword spaces that you couldn't have played in before, which I think is really neat. So another one, let's say, vitamins.com. If they've been to vitamins.com or if they've purchased, let's say they've purchased on vitamins.com, and now you're just advertising to someone who searches the term symptom, right? You could never do that before. It wouldn't make any sense. But if you combine that with someone who's purchased from you before, it's very likely they may purchase something off your site. I've got 39 scripts. I like to play around with scripts a lot. So I've got a bunch of scripts that I'd like to share with you guys. At the end, there'll be a direct link to it. A lot of things, pausing an account when it spends X in a month, sort of management things that we've come across and found useful. List of all converting terms, changes in CTR, definitely something to check out. If you guys have any questions at the end of this, I'd be more than welcome to answer them. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And posted one, and it's on there. I don't remember the name. Sometimes I change the names to something that makes more sense to me than what they're actually publicly known as. But it gives you an overview of where you're at day over day, week over week, month over month. So for all my clients, I can instantly see where we're going, which is really nice. So, yep.
Okay, let's get started. Hi, sorry about that little delay. My name's Tim Meyer. I work for a company called Trueffect. I come from a bit of a different angle. Originally, I was in the search space, have sort of moved from organic search and SEO through paid search, through social, and now working on display, more from a non-Google perspective, so doing remarketing actually in the sort of third-party display ecosystem. Our company largely helps people find new customers and then helps sell more to their existing customers. And we work with a lot of large companies like Match.com, as well as Ancestry.com and a bunch of other people on the web. When I think about remarketing and retargeting, there's sort of three areas I look at. There's one which is the basic use case a lot of people are doing, which is someone comes to the site, and then we're going to market something to them. There have been a couple of other forms of retargeting which to look at. One was originally search retargeting, which a lot of people don't use these days. But it's really a marriage of what Sean was talking about with his RSLAs, which was really someone comes to the site and they do a particular search. I remember when we initially launched this, someone would come and search for Volvo station wagon or station wagon, and then based on that search intent, you could market to them across the web. And then a third use case, which I use a lot personally in our marketing, is using email lists and what a lot of people refer to as custom audiences out there, which is taking email lists and then being able to match those emails with people's online identities and then accessing those people across the web. The big downside, obviously, of that is that the match rate right now for retargeting using email lists is very low. You go to someone like Datalogix or some other company like that, and their match rates are typically going to be about 20 to 30%. So you're going to need a very large list to make that happen. So today, what I'm going to focus on is help you move beyond what most people are doing, just cookieing someone who comes to the site and then serving them a fairly generic ad to try and get them back to close that sale and help move beyond that. So one of the biggest things I look at with retargeting is like, how does it fit in the overall mix? You know, are you, in the end, a lot of it comes down to, are you filling the top of the funnel with a lot of quality and quantity of leads? Because right down at the bottom of the funnel where retargeting is, you're only as good as the volume you have at the top and the quality of those leads. If you get junk people to your website and you start retargeting to them, you're not going to get very good results at the bottom of the funnel. So what I would look at is really look at your crediting formula. Most of you are probably using, are any of you using attribution? Do people know what attribution is here? Not many. So basically, what most people use these days from the days of search is what we call last click attribution. And in the affiliate world, many of you probably use that. And what that means is I might hit a user with a lot of they might do searches, click on paid search ads, they might view display ads, they might click on display ads, they might open emails. But in the end, the person that last touches that, either a display ad or a search, and clicks on that, will get 100% of the credit for that conversion. Many people are moving from that to the land of what they call a U-shaped attribution. So this is actually giving credit to all the touches in marketing. So typically with U-shape, you give 1 point to the introduction to the brand or service, you give 1 point to the last view or the last click, and then you give 1 point to basically everyone in the middle, so it's 1 over n. So you might have 10 touches between the introduction and the conversion, so it would be 1 over 10. And then you're trying to that's how you would give credit for that conversion to the different players in that space. And typically in that model, your first touch and your last touch are the most important, and then you optimize and negotiate with all the vendors that are giving you all that interaction in between, because they're not giving you as much value. They're not giving you both that introduction and the conversion. A few things to look at in terms of attribution is, one, in this environment, it's very hard to to match the top of the funnel interactions, because oftentimes in travel, where you have a 3-month purchase cycle, the cookie that was dropped 3 months ago probably does not exist on that computer once the person converts. Whereas in retargeting, it's right at the end of the funnel, so you're going to be able to attribute very well from that perspective. So if you're moving to a multi-touch, it's very important to be able to connect all the top of the funnel connections and actions, as well as the bottom of the funnel. The other is viewability, you should keep in mind. So there's a lot of times people are giving credit, or 100% of the credit in last click attribution model, to the last interaction. And oftentimes, if the user does not even see the ad, the retargeting ad, and people are saying, oh, well, I don't know if the person saw the ad or not, but it was right at the bottom of the page and they didn't scroll. So you're giving 100% credit to someone that didn't even take part in any part of the interaction. So I think that's a new thing that Google and a lot of players out there are using, but I would really recommend looking from that perspective. And then I think the third part is oftentimes someone will go on a mobile device early in the day at work, they'll find the product they want, and they'll start to get retargeted. buy that. And then maybe they see a few ads during the day when they check Facebook, and then at night, they'll go on their home computer and they'll make the purchase. There are a lot of times that person would have bought that product anyway. So you've got to understand that 100% of people are not going to just buy because of the ad. A lot of the people are actually going to buy anyway, and you've got to figure out and test for your business how much you think that incrementality is. Is it 20%? Is it 40%? Is it 60%? But I think you really need to try and figure that out and model that in so you're not overspending on your retargeting, and you can actually balance between top of the funnel and growing new customers as well as growing those conversions at the bottom of the funnel. So some of the techniques to improve retargeting I'm going to talk about. One is suppression cookies to suppress ads. I think we've all been either annoyed by retargeting ads when you go to a site or Amazon, you see something, you actually specifically decide not to buy it because it costs too much or it doesn't have the feature set that you want, and it follows you around the web for a long time, especially if you're looking at someone else's sports team, you're trying to buy a gift for someone else's sports team, and then you keep getting Green Bay Packer ads over and over again for the next month. So I think this is obviously an important part from a brand trust perspective, but also from a user perspective. I think users, customers expect better. The next is reducing frequency caps. I know there are a lot of people in the industry that profess that you can never get enough impressions on retargeting. But I've presented with a bunch of them on panels. I've seen their charts and data up on the screen, and there's definitely a drop-off at some point once you hit a certain frequency that you're not going to convert those customers. The next is just dealing with SKU-level retargeting. Someone comes to a product, you keep hitting them with that one product. There are other things you can do, and I'll talk about that. And then finally, just using first-party data to inform. So first-party data is your CRM data, your customer data. So this would be knowing, what size shirt does this person wear? What airport do they typically book flights from? What's their age? All their registration information. And using this as well as the behavioral data on the site to inform retargeting. So one of these is programmatic bidding. If you don't know what that is, so display used to be about, hey, we're a finance, we're E-Trade, we're going to go to Yahoo and we're going to buy out Yahoo Finance. And Yahoo Finance had a rate card for getting on the Yahoo Finance homepage. That's changed now, and it's moved much more similarly to search. So now you actually bid on a user. So a user will come to the Yahoo Finance site, and every advertiser will have different pieces of data about that specific user. And based on the data they have, they will actually bid for that impression. So one person might say, I'm bidding 5 cents, 10 cents, 15 cents, and whoever bids the highest will be able to serve their ad to that specific customer. And then finally, creative decisioning. Based on that data, serve them a different ad. As we all know, that targeted ads perform probably 60, 80% higher than untargeted ads. So if you're able to use your data to serve, do one-to-one marketing or do personalized advertising, you are going to actually get much better results. So looking at this is a story about one of our customers. It was interesting. It's actually not Hertz is our customer. It's another car rental company. And they were retargeting off their homepage. And a lot of people at this rental car company will come to the site, and because they're part of the rewards program, they will book their car. And what was happening is they were all getting lots of this, save $60 off your next rental. So what we found is everyone was actually going back to the site, clicking on the ad, going back to the site. They were actually canceling their order and then booking another car rental with that $60 off. So as you can see, this is a huge marketing fail and something they should really be stopping. So this is a use case where in certain instances like this, when they book, you want to push a suppression pixel. So when you see that user out there, you can look for that cookie or pixel and say, this person purchased, I'm not going to give them the $60 come on. So that's one thing, a suppression use case to look at. The next is SKU level retargeting. We all get bored of seeing, this is a product sort of niche audio product I was looking at. But the point is, this is a very niche product. You can look at it. You may not want it. I think there are a lot of things you can do after a few impressions, zoom up and market the category level in audio or audio converters, or show me the top 10 popular products in these categories. But I think moving on to similar products, zoning up into more of a category level, you're going to have a lot more success. And we have data that shows moving up and down and differentiating your ad, I think will not only perform better, but also do better with your consumer trust and just your one-to-one marketing efforts. So this I talked about briefly. It's really about behaviorally segmenting your users. So you might have someone that comes to the homepage and just bails. That would be one, which you probably don't want to bid very high for that user. And you probably want to give them a very general advertisement just to get back to the site, maybe like a free shipping coupon, something like that. Someone who comes to a specific category pages and browses several pages, I think you'd want to bid higher for that user. And you'd also want to show them a custom creative that would have messaging as well as images about that particular category. And then at the highest level, someone who's abandoned shopping cart user, that you would probably bid the highest for, and you'd probably also put a free shipping offer to try and get that person to come back and give them a reason to buy now. So that's a way you really want to be able to segment these users, value them differently, and improve the performance by having all of that, having custom creative. So I do a lot in the B2B environment as well, and I think the other way, other than just activity, is just figuring out which stage of the funnel people are in. We do a lot of business for dating sites, so we'll actually start them with the awareness, and typically in dating, they just want to know, are you single or not? That's basically the top of the funnel, and then once they figure out you are, then they start moving you down the funnel, trying to get you to do a search where they can get that first-party data, figuring out this person's in Vegas, they're looking for 30 to 40-year-old women, and they're looking for this sort of race. And then we can start targeting our creative a lot better. So we can actually cookie the users and actually put them in terms of the different segment they're in, and then create different messaging to move them down the funnel. So that's how I would think about it more from a B2B environment. This is the custom audience pieces. It's really easy to do this on Facebook because you just go to Facebook, you get a CSV of the emails you have, you input them, and then you come back probably 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later, and they'll tell you how many matches have happened. And then you can start retargeting these people. So if you have email lists, or in a B2B environment, you can purchase, like we use a company called Ad Data Express, which has all the advertisers in them, and you can basically connect them. If you want to do Twitter, or you want to advertise on different ad networks across the web, you're going to have to go to specific vendors that will do the matching for you. There are companies like Experian will do matching for you. Datalogix will do matching for you, and a lot of other like LiveRamp, which is part of Acxiom, will also do that matching for you. This can be really strong in B2B environments when people are coming to your site, they sign up for email lists, and then you can start hitting them in multiple channels, and just a really different way of retargeting, as I talked about. So we do a lot of drip campaigns, so if you're having deliverability problems, maybe we make sure we hit them on display as well as via their email campaigns. A lot of people are using SaaS, software as a service products these days, where they're trying to, and I'm sure many of you are doing lead gen for these types of service, where you get the person to sign up for this particular service, and they get a 30-day free trial. So sometimes the payout might be after the 30 days and they've signed up for something paid. But it's very important in that first 30 days of onboarding to keep getting the people back to the site, getting them engaged, getting them watching training videos or giving them tips so you can actually get that conversion after 30 days. And I think this retargeting is a great way, either on a B2B or a B2C service, to get them back, they haven't created a profile yet. Let me get them to do that and walk them step by step through the different actions that it takes to convert that customer. I mean, what we look at a lot is, what does a converting customer do that a non-converting doesn't do? So we say these 4 things, if we do these 4 things, they're very likely to convert, and then we'll track that through the progression of retargeting in a funnel and try and improve performance that way. This is one thing just through the Google channel, I didn't really think about so much is, when you're a search person, you're married to text ads, and text ads are so easy to create because you're just typing. Many of us search people find it very difficult because we don't have display skills or image skills or anything like that. I surely don't. One thing I learned recently was on the Google network, they have this new created display ad where if you click on it, it will basically crawl your site, look at all the images, and it sort of munges a bunch of them together to create some formats. And it created about 40, typically 40, 50, and then there's normally about 2, 3, or 4 that it will create that are quite good. But the reason to do this is on the Google Display Network, you can only get a certain amount of reach with the textual ads. There's a lot of inventory out there, different sites that don't accept the text ads and will only display the image ads. So you really want to get these 2 formats in play so you can actually reach a lot more customers out there. And if you don't have the skills like I do to do creative like that, I thought this was not ideal, but it allowed me to at least reach that audience. So this is an interesting convergence between native advertising and retargeting. A lot of people, so native advertising out there is in-stream advertisements. So this will get a lot bigger. This is like Facebook in-stream ads. A lot of other sites like Huffington Post, CNN, Wall Street Journal, Yahoo Finance are doing these. So it's sort of a mix of sort of content marketing, but in the stream. And a lot of people didn't know that you can actually retarget people in this mainline experience, and I think it works quite well. And there's an example of one on Huffington Post on the left, and if you want to do this through Twitter or Facebook, you can look at the sort of main players like AdRoll, Nanigans, and Trigit will do this for you. And then if you're looking to do it across publishers such as CNN or HuffPo, you can look at Taboola or Outbrain or ShareThrough. But I think this is an area with mobile getting much bigger and in-stream becoming much bigger ads. This would be an area I would definitely look at and test and see if it works for you. So in the end with retargeting, I think it's it's a very valuable piece of your retargeting effort, getting people to convert. But I think it's just very important to look at your whole funnel and figure out how you're valuing the last click and the retargeting versus the top of the funnel, and just making sure that you're balancing that. I would say most of our customers, we look at their entire funnel and optimize it, and we look at basically their attribution, and we typically move about 10 to 15% of their spend from the retargeting to top of the funnel for optimal performance. So I really look at, it really comes down to attribution, how you're spending your money, and just balancing that funnel. So I think now we'll go for questions. I will be sending, I'll basically tweet out after a few of the articles that I've written on retargeting, in case you want more information about that. Some of them have been written in Marketing Land, and some of them I've published in Ad Exchanger, and those are good follow-ups to some of the things I've been talking about. Thank you very much. Can people go up to the microphone? I think it will help everyone hear.
So I'm actually interested in a little bit more information on custom audiences, but not through Facebook. And you mentioned a couple of companies, I think Experian and who?
Datalogics.
Datalogics.
And LiveRamp, which is part of Axiom, right?
So the question that I have is, and excuse my ignorance, but if you provide them a huge list of email addresses, are they going to actually do the targeting for you through the ad networks, or do you have to somehow marry those cookies, convert it, from email to cookies, and then hand some cookie identifier to an ad network?
No, they will. So there are a lot of companies out there that will help you do that. In some cases, those companies will do that. I mean, typically, our company, if we were doing retargeting or prospecting, we would actually use their services to do that matching, because there's only a few companies that are able to do that matching. And because the rate of matching is so low, typically 20-25%, like for us in a B2B marketplace, I'm going to basically go through Facebook, Twitter, and just go through the gamut to get that matching right. But yeah, you will. The display ecosystem is actually very complex, because you have the matching people who match the digital identities, and then you've got to use DSP, which has a bidder, which basically allows you to access all the inventory. So there are a lot of different pieces, but there are companies like us and our competitors that are able to provide that full solution and bring all of that together, and largely the client saying, hey, I want to meet these CPA goals and help me do it, right?
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you for the great information. I have a question on from a sort of a novice's point of view on retargeting. Let's say I'm starting off with retargeting, and my target, whatever networks are Google and Facebook. Should I be doing Google separately, Facebook separately, or should I go with someone like AdRoll? What's the recommendation?
You said AdRoll?
AdRoll, and there are a few companies. I'm just familiar with AdRoll.
I mean, it's kind of a question of using, bid management software or not. It's kind of that same question. For me personally, for our agency, we would not. But just because we have so much more control in AdWords to make real granular changes, and as AdWords updates and new features are available, we can jump on them and use them. So I tend to lean away from it, but if you're just getting started, I'd recommend trying it all out, right? Like, throw a little bit of money to each and see what happens. Make sure it's enough money to get statistically relevant data, but I definitely try it out. I would never say don't try it. It's not going to work for you, because it might.
I mean, my experience. My experience, I did try it out a little. I just found it a little limiting in the sense AdRoll. Sure. So it almost seems like it's a layer above these two. These two are on the ground floor, very close to the road, and this is like, on the second floor sort of a thing.
Yeah, and you don't really see everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And I always have questions like, well, what was, I can't see that. Well, which ones, can I break these out into, nope, I can't see what's behind that. Okay, so there's a lot of trust involved there that I'm not super comfortable with. But, if it works for some people, it works for some people. It just wouldn't work for me. And you asked about the scripts, correct?
Yes.
So the three, I pulled up my Google Drive, because that's what I look at every day. MCC client check is something I check every day. Daily account changes, that alerts me, sends me an email. It's a script that sends me an email if there's been an influx in impressions by like 30%, or conversions went down by 20%. I set this all up in the script and tell it when to alert me, which is nice. Broken URLs, it runs through, I think this one runs every hour. It checks to make sure all my landing pages, URLs are good. If there's any 404s or anything weird, it shoots me an email and alerts me instantly. And then ad performance report. I run that monthly just to see where my ads are at. Those are the ones I kind of maintain across all clients, but every client sometimes will make custom scripts for them.
Can I ask one more question for Tim?
Well, I've got a question for you. So how do you normally do personally I do, go into Facebook, I go into Google and do it myself, and do that stuff. But is that how you normally do it? Because a lot of people just outsource a lot of the work with the UIs, and I think if you are used to outsourcing, you know, a lot of the work, like your AdWords, et cetera, you know, ad roll isn't a bad, you know, isn't a bad solution. I think when I look at vendors in the space, one thing you need to look at is transparency and just figuring out how much transparency are they giving you into sort of where they're buying. I mean, obviously, if you're just in Facebook and Google, you know where they're buying their inventory. If you broaden your remarketing out to a lot more display networks, you want that transparency to make sure that you're getting good quality inventory.
Right.
And you know, things are working for you. So that's really how I would, one big thing I would look at with vendors.
Can I ask? I can wait. Oh, go ahead, I'll wait. You mentioned, I'm not sure if I understood correctly, but you said your focus on display networks is non-Google properties. Did I hear you correctly?
We work across almost every, we work across a lot of, we can basically buy across a lot of all networks, and we're not limited. We'll buy across Facebook, but we're not limited to, you know, typically a lot of people, when they think of retargeting, especially people coming from search, you typically are like, oh, I just go into my AdWords UI and do retargeting. We would actually, you know, buy across specific media, collective media, you know, a lot of the different exchanges and networks. So when we work with clients, it's really finding the best inventory source that works for them at the best price so they can perform, whereas a lot of times you go to a specific network or a media firm and you're restricted to that piece of inventory. And so they're going to try and get the best performance based on the sites they have. Whereas for us, we'll try everything and optimize and figure out, you know, do the best for the client, be agnostic to that inventory.
Like I would classify myself as a small business and a novice in display advertising. So and I want to get started. So my thought was, let's just stay with Google. Keep it simple. Let's figure this out. And then, is that a good? Because in my limited capacity knowledge, Google owns 80% of the world, sort of a thing. So it's just simpler to go with the majority and then figure it out.
From a search perspective, but not. It depends what you're in. You're in B2B, or you're, you know, LinkedIn can be very good for B2B. I think you know, I think social's always like for retail. I think social's probably a better avenue because you hit social so much more frequently. I mean, people are checking, you know, after that people go shopping, they'll probably be on Facebook like 10 seconds later, right? And then they're going to get the retargeted ad right there. And the time, like getting at that user as quickly as possible is, you know, one of the 5, you know, things that drive performance, right? So that I would not discount social, and I wouldn't, you know, discount a lot of the other networks that actually have more premium inventory.
Okay. Tim, question for you. If somebody was looking to work with Trueffect, is there a minimum kind of budget you guys work with?
Largely when we look at, you know, look at spend, we largely look at to prove ourselves, and we'll do tests in the region of, you know, typically we don't like to work much lower than 5 or 10K per month, but we like to have people grow, and some of our largest accounts have grown from 20K a month, and some of them are over $1 million a month now. So we largely look at people we think we can perform with, and we can grow the business through performance. So we don't mind starting small, but we need to know that there's runway if we perform to get to a larger relationship. Go ahead.
I have a question related to the previous question. I think what you wanted to do was to get Facebook visitors and advertise through Google. Can't we use Google Analytics instead of ad roll? You can create audience using Google Analytics and then advertise with Google AdWords to them.
Say the question again.
Like you can tag Facebook users with Google Analytics tag, and then go back to Google AdWords and advertise to them.
Sure.
That would, then you don't have to use ad roll, right? I don't know anything about ad roll, so, but I'm assuming.
Well, it's accessing the inventory. I think what we're talking about more is accessing the inventory on the site, right? You have to use, like, in display, it's all about, a lot of it is about actually the inventory on Facebook or Google, and then you'll have other networks like Collective Media or Specific that have access to a lot of different sites. So you go, so they'll have you'll have cookies that will match a specific user, where you can access it. So you'd say, hey, I want this person to have these attributes. And they'll say, well, I have an audience of 10,000 people on my network that have those attributes that I should target. So it's really the accessibility to the inventory as well as the cookies to be able to purchase the users.
Now, I have a question about the shopping cart abandonment.
Sure.
People who go to the shopping cart but don't purchase.
Can you speak up?
People who go to the shopping cart but don't buy. I have multi-step checkout process. So by the time they get to the shopping cart and they abandon the cart, I already have their email. So do you think it's still worth advertising to them because it's going to cost me, or just because I have their email, I can just send them an email and say, hey, you abandoned the cart, and what was the reason?
If you're getting their email or requiring a login, a membership to purchase, then I would test it out. I think that remarketing is, it's just another medium, and this question kind of leads to, it depends on what kind of product are you in?
Digital products, they're not big ticket items.
So is it something that they could maybe need again in the next 6 months?
Yeah.
Okay.
They would.
So in the next six months, let's say they're looking to purchase something similar to your product, your competitor may very well be there, right? So if it's not your ad being there in that slot, it could be a competitor ad. So it's something where, yeah, you have them by email, but maybe it makes sense to shoot them an email and also at the same time hit them with those remarketing ads. So something's going to be there, whether it's you, your competitors, or Google advertising Google, something's going to fill that spot. And that's something to consider.
I have one more question if nobody else. The quality score, when it drops, you mentioned that you pause them. I checked one thing that it kind of fluctuates. Sometimes some keywords that drop to 3, 2 weeks later, there are to 5 and 6, and then they go back to 3. So if you pause them,
can you speak? I'm not getting that first part. Going up to 3.
You had a script. You had a script to pause the keyword.
Right.
Keywords that drop in quality score.
Right.
Now, if the quality score goes to 3, for example, you want to drop them, and if it goes back to 5, I want to have them active.
Right.
And they fluctuate. So is that something that you consider? Because when you pause them, then you basically lose them.
Right. So you're saying you want, I'd probably set up a label for those. Is this happening across your whole account, or is this just some
No,
odd
just
outliers?
those that are in the border of 4 or 3. They fluctuate.
Yeah.
Go 4, 3, and then go back to 5.
If you're converting at a CPA that makes sense at a quality score of 2 for those keywords, then I'd let them go at 2. It's not, I'm not saying you should never advertise. I think you should probably focus on why the quality score is that low. But if the CPA is there, the CPA is there. So that script is just kind of a general rule for the non-outliers that makes sense across most accounts to keep them above a certain threshold of quality score. And that may be different from industry to industry what that hard line is. So if it's different for you or it fluctuates, you could either separate out those, tell the script not to look at those particular outliers using labels. Yeah, I think that would be the best way to handle it, or drop that line to 2 or 3, below 3.
Lower,
Yeah.
I think another angle, I think it's good to use email them directly, but I know a lot of people will have deliverability problems with their email. If you're sending a lot of email, you're quite aggressive on email. So it's one way, the display retargeting is one way to actually get around those deliverability problems. So if you actually have the analytics to figure out, hey, I'm getting through on Yahoo but not on Gmail, you could actually retarget people with certain email addresses or from certain emails from certain domains where you have those deliverability problems, which I think is always a good idea.
Thanks.
And I'll say with email, and if I get unsolicited email, or even if it's somewhere I've purchased in the last whenever, and I get a follow-up email, if I don't look at it right then, I will never look at it again, right? I never save an ad like, when I have some spare time, I'm going to check out those deals. Because I feel like I know another one's coming. So I feel like you've kind of got one shot when that email is sent for email sometimes, whereas remarketing, you can kind of float in their peripheral and wait till they're ready because you don't pay until they click. So it's definitely a different strategy, and I think both are really important to work together.
So we have 2 minutes left. Is there one more question we could ask to finish? Good.
I have a quick one, actually. Tim, you mentioned reducing the frequency caps and how there is a notable drop-off. Can you be more specific about what frequency caps you recommend?
Okay, good. Yeah, so just so people, I mean, at a higher level, frequency is very difficult in the display space because most, most providers are using third-party cookies, which get deleted every 7 days. So what typically happens is that, I'll give you this example. So if you're getting your third-party cookies deleted every 7 days, if I get 4 impressions a week, right, I'm gonna see 4 users with 4 impressions over a month period, right? And really what's happening is you're actually getting 1 user that's getting 16 impressions. So I think in a lot of your metrics like Google, your frequency is actually gonna be very undercounted. So you need to understand that. I mean, there are a lot of frequencies you'll see that are like 1.2, 1.8, 2.3, and in reality, you're probably getting 6, 7 impressions per user. So that's one thing to really be, have in mind, that your frequency numbers are way off. You will see, what you want to do is basically plot a curve and look and say, hey, basically this is my frequency and this is when people actually convert. So then you'll see where the drop-off is on that curve, and that's where you should be setting your caps, is where you start to see that drop-off. And if you look at some of the websites out there, you'll see, you just do a search for frequency versus conversion chart on Google Image. I'm sure you'll get some of the charts you need to replicate. But that's what you want to do to try and figure out that frequency capping, both from a performance perspective, but I would argue from a brand trust perspective, you want to have that nailed down. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. I think we're about over with the hour. They just waved the time sign. And if you have any other questions, you can just come up and we'll be here for a little while. Thank you.
Thank you.